Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spiral Wave, where we look at the foundational principles of Qigong and Tai Chi Chuan. Today we're going to look at the standing meditation. Standing meditation is very important if we're going to be serious about our Tai Chi Chuan practice. And sometimes it's actually neglected and left out by many teachers, or given kind of just a short shrift, really, not really taken too seriously. When I first started learning Tai Chi Chuan, all back in, I think it was like 1970 or so, we're talking a long time ago, I wasn't really taught the standing meditation. But when I came across my Tai Chi Chuan teacher in Los Angeles, Bob Engel, when we first met, and he was kind of seeing if he wanted to take me on as his student, he said, "You're going to need to stand for a year." Well, fortunately, I knew enough about it at that point, about the training, that I thought that that was great, that was very acceptable. But I think that if I didn't, I would say, well, I'm not going to stand for a year. I want to start moving, just getting all the beautiful Tai Chi flowing movements going. And actually, Tai Chi Chuan really isn't about beautiful flowing movements. I mean, it certainly can look very graceful and so on. And certainly a good dancer, a ballet dancer, could learn the choreography probably in a day and look very, very beautiful doing it. But they wouldn't be doing Tai Chi. And that's really what we're getting at here. In order to do Tai Chi, we have to transform our body and put it in a place of preparation. And that's what we're really doing in these foundational practices. So as a reference point for standing meditation, we're going to use Yang Chengfu's 10 essential points. Well, actually only 8 of them, because the last 2 more related to movement. But although all the points relate to movement, they can also be used, the first 8, to very much align our structure and our body to prepare ourselves for Tai Chi Chuan movements themselves. Now, Yang Chengfu was a teacher about 100 years or so ago, and one of the great masters of Tai Chi, one of the great modern masters of Tai Chi. Now, when I talk about Tai Chi, it's really a shortcut for Tai Chi Chuan. Tai Chi itself means great ultimate, and so it doesn't mean much by itself, but Chuan means fist. So it's the great ultimate fist. So it tells us right there that it's a martial art. Now, everything about Tai Chi Chuan is completely counterintuitive. So in many ways, it doesn't make logical sense. So you just kind of have to accept it, and it's really an experience. When I say you have to accept it, you have to kind of experience and trust that it's going to take you along the pathway. And for that, you need a really good teacher. And so I recommend that you find one. Really just look around and just see if some of these foundational practices really ring your bell in terms of, oh, it's something I'd like to pursue. Regardless, these foundational principles, whoever you go with, these are really very solid, what I'm going to be conveying here, and you can take them into any practice and any teaching that you should have. So, standing meditation. So yes, I stood for a long time, and it's very important that we learn how to stand properly, because we can just stand. And I knew about standing because I had been practicing standing, but I wasn't doing it properly. I mean, you can stand, and that's really not going to do too much for you. We all stand around, right? If you stand in line waiting for something, it's just like, it's not going to make you a great Tai Chi Chuan practitioner. So there's some very, very specific points. So this is where Yang Chengfu can help us out. By the way, Yang Chengfu was a Yang style practitioner of Tai Chi Chuan. There's basically 4 main styles. Chen style, Yang style, Wu style, W-U, and Sun style, S-U-N, Sun, after Sun Lutang, another great martial artist of about 100 years ago or so. So, all of these styles are wonderful. We do the Yang style, and I prefer the Yang style because it makes more sense to me, and it's easier, and it's more popular for one reason. You can find many Tai Chi schools in the Yang style, and it also has an emphasis on relaxation. And one of the reasons I got involved in Tai Chi Chuan was because of the relaxation aspect. And I got attracted to a teacher called Cheng, who was a student of young Chengfu and came to the West, New York, and pretty much popularized it. But what I loved about Cheng is that he looked relaxed. He was one of the few Tai Chi practitioners that actually looked relaxed. When you see some Tai Chi practitioners, they don't look terribly relaxed, but Cheng did. And I was kind of, okay, I want to do that. But also the ability to issue power from a relaxed position becomes very mysterious and very, very interesting. And how can that be? So standing is a way to begin to transform our body, to be able to mobilize qi, or if you want to say, just issue power, fa jin, it's called. And that is like, but you need to prepare yourself to be able to do that. So that's what it's about. Yang Chengfu, principle number 1, elevate the crown and raise the spirit. Elevate the crown and raise the spirit. Raising the spirit is something we can talk about later on, but elevating the crown is something we can move to right away, which is to make sure that our head is, as you've heard me say in other places here, suspended from above. And so it's that idea that the feeling that the neck is kind of coming up a little bit at the back. And the way that I try to center my head, or the way that I do center my head, is to experience the back of the palate. And that's where my head is kind of, that's where the skull is on the axis. So I want to find that point and just nod from that place. So if I'm here, I'm kind of nodding from my neck. But if I'm back here, and you'll find that as you find that place of balance, I think it's called the AO joint, the atlanto-occipital joint, you'll find that it'll start balancing. And then it's just like those Swiss finishing schools, right, where they put the book on the head. And it's not actually a bad exercise. And you just walk around balancing that book on your head to have good posture. It's not a bad exercise at all. The problem with it is that it can create tension. And what we don't want to do is create tension. So we don't want to force ourselves into this position. We want to find as natural a posture as we possibly can. And so that takes a little bit of awareness, and I'm adjusting my head posture. I think hundreds of times is probably an exaggeration, but it feels like hundreds of times a day, because it's so easy. As soon as you sit at your computer and you get a bad email, or or something, even something could be interested or something like that, and you go, oh, and immediately you collapse. So it's very easy. So we want to keep the head elevated, not just for Tai Chi purposes. Again, what we're doing here is that all of these movements can be, all of these discussions on spiral wave can be used in daily life. And keeping your head elevated, elevate the crown, is a great instruction for life, because you really are opening up this freeway, I'm calling it, this freeway of nerves and blood vessels that are all going up into your eyes, into your ears, into your nose. I mean, it's all happening right at this neck area here. So we want to just gently make sure that there's a little bit of opening of the cervical vertebrae. So we want to have that is number 1. Second thing is contain, point number 2, contain the chest and raise the back, or expand the back. Contain the chest. Now, by the way, I probably should have said, we're just going to go over 3 points today, just 3 of them, and we're going to use those 3 points, and that will give you enough to practice until the next time. Contain the chest, what does that mean? A lot of people look at it as collapsing the chest, but here's the thing, we do not want to collapse, because if we collapse, then we have some problems. The idea with Tai Chi Chuan is that the bones float upwards. The bones float upwards and the flesh sinks downwards. So If we collapse, then we're collapsing the bones with the flesh. We don't want to do that. We want to have the bones float upwards. So we want to keep our structure, our skeletal structure, while the flesh and the tissues float downwards. Very important. So containing the chest is that if we put our kind of finger on this little notch here where the collarbone is, right in the top of the sternum, and just press down on it a little bit, that's the kind of feeling we want to have of the chest kind of coming down without collapsing, right? We just want to have that sternum coming down a little bit, so I'm not puffed up like this. So now when I'm puffed up like this, I can't feel the ground, and we're going to be talking a lot about feeling the ground. So I want to kind of contain the chest. Expanding the back comes more with the third essential point. In Chinese, I'm going to speak Chinese for a moment, Sung Yao. Sung Yao, translated to relax the waist. Now, what is the waist, or the Yao? Y-A-O. Is this area here, right? There's a lot of discussions on what the waist is, but for our purposes, it's really between the lower ribs and the pelvis. This whole area here, a lot of people argue that it's the lumbar area, the Yao is the lumbar area, and we're including that as well. So it's, if you think of this whole band, whatever is between the lower ribs and the waist is your Yao. Relax the Yao. A better translation is release the Yao, release the waist. Sung. Sung is often translated as relax, but really release would be better. So those are the 3 points. Elevate the crown and raise the spirit. Contain the chest and expand the back. And 3, Sung Yao, release the waist. Now, I want you to have this image. It's a hanger. The top of the hanger goes under the occiput, under your head, so that that's kind of really well established. This represents the shoulders here. And so you've got the head, the neck, and the shoulders, and that is going to be your hanger. The rest of your body is like your clothes hanging off of this structure. It's a very important point. Notice this structure, it's a little rigid. I mean, obviously we're not this rigid, but certainly we're not bowed over here. We haven't got these ends here curling in. We want to have this really relaxed and down. So we've got that frame. Very important, and a very, very good imagery for you to have, not in terms of stiffness, but in terms of there's this hanger and everything is just draping off of that and down. So all of this information gives us enough now information to practice. So I want you to get into what's called a Wuji position. W-U-J-I, Wuji. Often translated to emptiness, but for our purposes, probably just neutral position. And what it is having our feet at shoulder width. Not at hip width, that's too narrow, the energy can't get down. Not wide, because the energy can't get through our legs. We want to have our legs, the energy go pass through our body, down and into our feet. So, the knees over the feet, not like this, over the feet. And just soft. We're not crouching down, no crouching, just soft. And our hands by our side. Now, a lot of people get into some very strange positions. They kind of have their hands out like this. And that's using force. One of our number 1 rules, no force. It's a very Taoist concept. Wu Wei, non-force, non-action. So we're not doing this, we're more allowing this to take place. Everything we must be doing must be natural. So our hands are by our side in a very natural way. Now, just a quick thing here. When we do Wuji in Qigong, it is a little different. Principles are very much the same, the head elevated, all of that, but we're usually on the front part of our feet, and our hands are more resting like they're resting on a table. That's our Wuji. We'll go back to that when we do Qigong. We're doing Tai Chi Chuan, which means that our hands are just by our sides in a relaxed way, and that our feet are fully on the ground. So we're not on the forefoot at all, or slightly weighted. We're just evenly over the mound on our big toe, our little toe, and our heel is just like they're flat on the ground. And we're relaxing down. Important that you feel your feet. And one way you won't feel your feet is if you're back like this. Then, you can feel your feet, but you won't be in your feet. And you've got to be in your feet for Tai Chi Chuan, because the Tai Chi classics say that it begins in the feet and then it comes through the legs, transmitted through the legs, is directed by the waist and expressed through the hands. So they give you a very, very clear map. No matter what style of Tai Chi you're doing, everybody refers to the classics, and that's one of the classic phrases from the classics. Begins in the feet, or under the feet even, transmitted through the legs, directed by the waist, and expressed through the hands. We'll come back to that another time, but the idea is that you have to feel your feet. So you want to have your shoulders on top of your hips, on top of your ankles, and you want to be just right there, pretty there. So you can feel the feet. Shoulders are down, not bowled over, just down. You've got your feet shoulder width apart, knees over the feet. The feet are pointed forward. We're in Wuji, neutral position. So the first thing, what do I want to do? Point one, elevate the crown. That's what I've got to check. Elevate the crown. We'll talk about the shoulders in the next session, but for now, we want to make sure that we contain the chest, point number two. So this, make sure that I'm not puffed up here. I've lost the ground again. Come back here, contain the chest down. Now, relax the waist, release the waist. We want to have the waist relaxed and start to move away from the lower ribs. Remember our hanger? We want the upper body to move away from the head and to hang. Then the waist begins to release and opens up, so that the space in a way starts to stretch between the lower ribs and the pelvis. The pelvis starts to drop away from the head without us going down from the head. We want to keep the head here as we release the waist. Release the waist. Just really feel that waist going down, 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 down. Release, release. Now, a lot of people will tell you tuck the waist, because they want the back to open. So tuck, and that'll open the back. But if you do that, you can practice that, then you will feel the tightness in your upper thighs immediately. That's wrong. We're not creating tightness, we're releasing tightness. Sung Yao, Sung is a Tai Chi principle. We're doing Sung all through our body. We're releasing the muscles, so that, and we're connecting with the connective tissue. We're elasticating our body, for want of a better word. We're just making sure that it stretches, but it stretches in a way much like a yawn, right? So that it's not like tense, it's not bound up, it's an open stretch. So we're opening the joints. We did that in a previous session where we feel those joints just open through our body. So we definitely want those joints to open and our bones to float, but we also want the muscles, just the tissues, to open and stretch gently towards the ground. So we have two things going. We have the bones floating up and the tissues going down. We want all of our energy just going down. Bob Ingle would tell me, let the tea leaves settle. The tea leaves. When you're brewing a cup of tea in China, sometimes you just put the tea leaves in the water, in the hot water, and then when the tea leaves sink, then the tea is ready to drink. but the tea leaves take their time. They work in their own time. We don't stir them around or force them down into the pot. We just let them settle by themselves. Elevate the crown. I'm just making sure that my posture, that my feet are even and forward. My knees are over, soft knees over my feet. Head elevated, crown elevated. The shoulders moving away from the head. The pelvis moving away from the upper body. And I just sit like this. Now, as the pelvis moves away, the tailbone automatically starts to drop and find its place. And then you start feeling expanding the back. Remember, contain the chest, expand the back. Well, the back doesn't really start to expand until you really release the waist. Then when you do that, now as you release the waist, you'll find that your knees will go down a little bit. You're not squatting, that's forcing, right? I'm making that happen. But when you release the waist, it'll happen naturally. It won't be a big bend, knee bend, but your knees will bend just a little more. And you'll feel that. Once you're on top of yourself, you want to start feeling all of that settle down. Now your feet may start to feel heavy. The upper body should just be completely relaxed and free of tension. That's the idea. Keep swinging the waist. Keep releasing the waist. Let it go down. Now you may find yourself starting to sweat. You may find yourself starting to tremble as all of this stuff starts to unwind. If it gets uncomfortable, just stop doing it. If you can work through the uncomfortableness, great, because your body is beginning to transform already. As I'm releasing, then this is opening up. So I'm relaxed, but the tissues are being stretched. The fascia, the tendons, the connective tissue rather than tendons. The tendons are between the bones. The connective tissue is beginning to kind of stretch and elasticate. So it has like this bouncy quality to it. So it's relaxed, but it doesn't mean to say it's not stretched and open. And again, I'm sinking down. I'm really feeling it in my feet. And I'm releasing my tushy. I don't need any of these outer musculature. That's the thing. All of it must begin to relax and release. And we'll do an exercise in another episode where we just go down through the body and just begin to release all of that. We need to unwind. As soon as I go like this, I lose the ground. I need to sink. Shoulders away from the head. But the head has to be established, because that head is really the top of that coat hanger, and that coat hanger is what everything is draping down from. So as my waist releases, and as my waist goes away, as my pelvis goes away from my head, my spine starts to expand as I keep my head in place and suspended. Again, I don't want to force anything. You can spend 5 minutes doing this initially. That should be enough. 10 minutes, and then eventually work up to 20 minutes. It's very active, so it's not like, oh, I'm just standing here. No, you're just constantly releasing. There's always another little thing to release. It's amazing. You suddenly feel, oh, my shoulders just let go. I thought my shoulders were relaxed, and suddenly they just seem to go down another inch or two. And again, just watch that head going down. See that a lot with Tai Chi people, that their head, they're bowed over like this because they're trying to be relaxed, and yet they're kind of rounded, and there's nothing that says that they should be rounded. Relaxed, released, yes, but the head elevated. Elevate the crown, raise the spirit. As we sink down, then another energy will come up through our body. Not only are the bones floating, but an energy will come up and raise the head naturally and start to suspend it. So that's what we're after. It doesn't necessarily happen immediately, but with practice, then the head becomes suspended. Then you'll know, if your head is dropped, then you'll know that you haven't reached the ground, you haven't relaxed, because as soon as you do relax, boom, that head comes to the top and is suspended. Just another minute or so here. Again, you may just feel yourself working. The body is really working hard here. We're releasing. So these tissues around my waist here are opening up, as are all the tissues around my body. I want to try and release my thigh muscles. I don't want the gross musculature, the thighs, the tushy, the biceps. I don't want those to carry any tension. Those are the first release. And then gradually I want to go further and further into the body, so that all the muscles that can be released, I mean, I'll need something to hold me up, but as little as possible, and that the tissues start sinking down right into the bottom of my feet, into my soles of my feet. Again, not only keep watching the elevation of the crown, but also that you don't go back like this. Don't want you back like this, on top of yourself. And as you become more sensitive, you'll feel that point where you've left the ground a little bit. So come on back, release the waist again. Again, don't do this as a forcing. Don't crouch. We're not crouching. But as you release the waist, you'll find that your knees will bend just as you're going down, because you're staying suspended from above. Again, I'm just looking for any point of tension. Did my head drop a little bit? Oftentimes it does. So find the back of my palate, nod a little bit, make sure my head is upright. My chest, has my chest gone up while I elevated my crown? No. If it does, push on this nodule just a little bit. You're not doing anything other than just showing your body. Just contain the chest, have this part come down. Chest is contained, but not collapsed or rounded. The waist is relaxed. Release the yow. The back now expands. Elevate the crown and raise the spirit. Contain the chest and expand the back. Release the waist. The 3 points. Remember, we're hanging off of that hanger. It's a great image to have, but also make sure the top of that hanger, the hook of that hanger, is really well established behind our neck here, so you feel that stretch of the cervical without forcing it. Really is a lot to keep you busy here. And again, the body is working hard. When you're doing it correctly, you'll start to feel it. This, from my opinion and point of view of all the studying that I've done of Tai Chi Chuan over the years, is one of the most important things that you can do. And to neglect it is to cheat yourself of a lot of the benefits of Tai Chi. Not that you can't get benefit from waving your arms around. I'm not saying that that's not a good idea. I'm just saying it's not really Tai Chi Chuan. And that's really what we want to do. We want to get those principles firmly in mind. And then we'll find that they'll work in whatever style we choose to go with and whatever teacher we choose to follow. So in the next session, we'll go over a couple of more points of Yang Chengfu's essential 10 points. Until then, Bei Ru Shui Shan.